So Blizzard has just dropped some massive tank changes, which is going to be quite interesting because currently in Dragonflight, a lot of the tanks just are way too self-sufficient that pretty much every tank's just effectively a blood DK. So hopefully that's going to be addressing this. Tank durability can cause some other problems as well, especially in challenging endgame content that we want to work towards improving. Enemy damage has increased to challenge tanks, but if it's increased too much, spiking puts tanks in significant danger if the defenses ever drop. This can lead tanks getting killed rapidly, seeming out of nowhere. I mean, DK, pretty much the DK gameplay style at the moment. We feel that this is unsatisfying. We prefer tank damage to generally be evenly distributed. That's never really going to be the case, though. Not currently. If tanks are not threatened enough, the most challenging part of the endgame content can become keeping DPS and healers alive, often against high burst damage, making tank survival more involving element of the group. Gameplay could give us some freedom to ease up on threat to other group members. I mean, it's never well, me as a tank, like it's not nothing is ever really threatening to the point where this really is probably going to matter. Like if you're doing your plus 10s, it doesn't feel like it's going to change. So to address the above are making reductions to tank durability and self-healing. This will allow us to smooth out the damage tanks and parties take while retaining the challenge of keeping them alive over time. That change into account and encounter tuning. We'll take those changes into account in encounter tuning as well. Ugh. That doesn't give me hope for this. Especially after Season 3, Season 4's tuning. Tanks will take some more damage overall, but shouldn't die significantly more or less often. And that seems to be so contradictory, because if they have to take more damage, it means our cooldowns are going to be up more. But the moment you don't rely on cooldowns, you just die. So, to increase the overall damage takes and the reliance on the healers, while increasing the percentage of damage they take. After mitigation, from steady damage sources like physical and attacks. We're making fewer reductions to each class defenses against burst damage. Why? We're making fewer reductions to each class's defenses against burst damage. Other threats are currently most likely to be lethal to them. Encounters will be tuned with this in mind, so the character of a tank damage changes, but the lethality of it doesn't significantly increase. Are they trying to make things like the first boss in Azure Vault, where it's like you got a heavy hit, but then you've got a heavy damage dot on top of it? Is that what the aim is for? Tank damage intake should be steady and not too fast. I mean, I can kind of agree. I mean, that was the reason why Blood DK playstyle was so good. Because every tank was rotting, but DK could survive quite sustain. Now goes. Time to use self feels like worth the goal of Celestial Brew. For some classes, we're increasing their passive defensive to compensate for the decrease to more active or reactive defensive mechanisms. Tank busters will still create challenging moments that rewards tanks for planning and smart use of cooldowns. When you get to a point where you don't really need to. But maybe that's just me as a blood DK. Just Death Strike. Tanks should have autonomy over their own survival and will still have cooldowns or emergency self heals like renewal or impending victory. The healing of continuous effects such as Loon's Favored or Indomitable are reduced, so tanks must have more of a partnership with healers to restore the missing health once it's lost. I mean, this is a good change that they're really trying to like go for, because at the moment, specifically in season 3 and season 4 of Dragonflight, the tanks were just, the healer would never have to heal the tank at all. Healer gameplay should not be dominated by tank healing. Healers play a crucial role, a critical role, in keeping tanks alive is a part of what they bring to the table. However, healers contribute to the success of the group in many ways, especially in dungeons. They sustain the group, dispel harmful effects, and respond to burst damage, or ordering mechanics. Tanks, I mean, yeah. Healers get fucked in dungeons. Tank healing should not demand so much that it interferes with their other roles. And it may take some iteration to get this. This is concerning. They're doing this change, and they're saying that it's going to take iterations to get the balance right on this, when the expansion's coming out in 40 days. Like, 36 days when it comes out. So, and they're just doing this, which is still quite concerning since they're still doing a lot of tuning on the beta, and the scaling hasn't changed at any point during the beta either. So it's very concerning. The tank gameplay should not significantly change or require actions like hiding to survive. I mean, at least they're aware of this, because this was something that happened in Shadowlands of Season 1, where tanks got heavily nerfed, mobs hit incredibly hard, so a kite meta started to basically evolve because of it. So at least they're aware or acknowledging that by nerfing tanks, they're more likely to go into a kite to survive meta. We're happy that more players are enjoying playing tanks with their friends and pick up groups. That's good. More tanks, the better. There are a lot of demand on tanks, such as learning M+ routes, leading groups, and knowing what trash abilities are particularly dangerous. I feel like a lot of the time, routes as a tank isn't something that you would normally do, especially in a +10 or a +7. It's like you just pull the trash, and you're most likely going to time the key. There are obviously some exceptions to that, where you kind of would need to do multiple groups. But I think a lot of the routes tend to be quite standardized, especially in pugs, where it's like you're doing, let's say, Azure Vault, the first pull, where it's like you're doing 6 lashes with the 3 Hulkings, but a more coordinated group of a tank would do like the same pull but add in the tree with the 3 extra lashes. The gameplay of standing toe-to-toe with groups of enemies and tactics you have learned to survive should continue to be effective. This is just how feedback, how does it change your builds. There's going to be a lot of theory crafting need to be done. Okay, the class updates. This is going to be interesting. Death Striker's powerful ability allows blood DKs to mitigate a percentage of any form of damage taken in the last 5 seconds. In a way, Death Strike works like a retroactive shield block, instead of reducing damage up front. It mitigates the damage you took from a hit by healing you. If using success and dashing, blah 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 blah. Now, oh, they're changing Death Strike to only heal the Death Knight for a percentage of the damage taken from a given damage event once, to make it scale more like other mitigation mechanics. Damn it. Can't stand in everything and just press Death Strike. Yeah. Pretty much that. We're also reducing the runic power generation somewhat, and reducing some of the mitigation Death Knight gets from high uptime cooldowns like Enfeeble and Dancing Rune Weapon, but increasing armor from Bone Shield. Overall, the Death Knights should take damage more smoothly, and they'll remain one of the strongest tanks for encounters with high magical periodic damage. New aura, Collagen Blood, shows the amount of recent damage taken that would be used to calculate the value of the next Death Strike. The aura description lists the value as a flat amount. I mean, that's going to be like created as a weak aura for more optimal time of death striking. If they're reducing the amount of burst and smoothing out the damage intake that we take as a DK, it's probably not going to matter as much because the current problem of DK is the fact that it still just gets flat out one shot. So if they're smoothing that out, it would be good. But the blood shield cap is now 50% of DK's maximum health with 100%, and the cap is no longer temporarily increased by vamp. This should not affect how much blood shield DKs are able to generate while actively tanking, or reduce how the large off tanking. Oh, that is so bad. That's bad. This is going to absolutely hurt the blood DK. Because the blood shield is pretty irrelevant. Like, it's nice. Like, it is very, very good. And you don't really need to use your cooldowns because of it. But it's going to make it, like, you're going to have to use your cooldowns for more actively tanking. In raid. Nerfed up. That's probably going to hurt depending on how which hero talents we're actually actively playing. The lack of runic power could actually hurt quite a bit for Blood DK. I mean, Rune of the Fallen Crusader is pretty much irrelevant. In raid, you're probably still using Sanguination. But M+, you're not really using Fallen Crusader for a heal, you're using it for the strength bonus. Bonus increases the armor by 100% of strength, was 80%. It's really good. Since Dragonflight, one of the biggest problems I had was we didn't have a lot of armor to really mitigate the damage and gigs. Leeching Strike. Now here, I mean, nope. I don't think people were taking Leeching Strike in the first place. 5% parry nerf. And that's probably going to be quite significant due to the fact that ever since Shadowlands Season 3 and 4, like if every time you had to do a high, like a high key, you'd lose Dancing Rune Weapon, you don't have Icebound Fortitude, the likelihood of you dying was incredibly high. That could actually hurt quite a bit. Wait, generate 3. So more nerfs to RP. And its duration. Wow. Nerf the Blood Drinker. And heal. I don't think we were ever taking Bonestorm for healing. I think it was mostly for damage in AoE situations. But that's actually going to hurt. So DK is probably going to be a lot weaker in this current build when this goes live than what it currently is now. Alright, on to Vengeance. Like Death Strike, Death Threat, Soul Fragments giving Demon a strong recovery against any type of damage. I mean, yep. Lived by the Glaive, now restores 2. This was very, for this season, was very niche. Like, it was good for a passive talent, but like, it wasn't game changer. There were a couple of builds of Demon Hunter where you wouldn't take Live by the Glaive. Thick Skin increases stamina by 60 and nerf the HP, that's perfectly fine. Demon Hunter, I think, is currently the highest health tank, especially during meta. So having a stamina increase is perfectly fine. Demonic Wars reduces physical damage and magic damage taken by 8%, was 10. Wait. It's not too significant. Fatality heals less often. Void Ray reduces damage taken by 3 of 4. Yeah. I feel like this needs to be more, or they need to change the scaling of crit for Vengeance. Because right now, like Vengeance is parrying like 80% of all attacks, especially melee swings. So just the 3% probably do with a bit more. Down influence reduce fire brand cooldown by 12 seconds. Okay, it means longer cooldown fire brand, which is fine. And then nerf to metal. I think this is definitely warranted, especially after this season. DH just has way too much else. Dark Bag Boon. Pressures 15 to 30. So 5, 10. Okay. It's not going to be too bad. Guardian Druid. With high armor and iron for uptime, Druid should now be one of the best tanks at surviving physical damage. We're slightly increasing the damage they take from all types of damage and balancing the power of their self-healing. We're also reducing the durations of some of their cooldowns to make timings they're more important. Ooh, I mean, Blizzard's gonna. hmm. Yeah, no, like. Anyway, Frenzy Regen heals you find 20%, was 32. I mean, that's perfectly. I feel like that's perfectly fine. Because you're more about the mitigation of the attacks rather than the self healing after the event of the attack. Iron Fang increases armor by 112% of agility, was 120. 8% nerf. Renewal heals for 20% of the maximum health, was 30. I don't think Guardians were ever taking renewal. Just having a quick check at my crew tank who is a Guardian main. Okay. So they do take renewal. How often do they really use it? Not a lot. 2 times at the end. So in case it's probably going to be about the same. Earth will reduce damage taken by 25%. Survival of the fittest. Reduces cooldown. Okay, so we're just having longer cooldowns of survival instincts. Tooth and claw, which is all damage taken. And that was like this was the key to Guardian Druid in season 2. If you didn't have tooth and claw up, you were going to die. After the wildfire was now 300 rage, was 200. Depending on the throughput of healers, you might not take wildfire. It definitely isn't very niche in some situations. Like when I was playing in season 2, wildfire for the third boss in Halls of Infusion, helping out the healer out was pretty significant. So really going to be determined on like how the dungeons are really going to play out. First Xperia grants a shield equal to 25%. Oh my god, 20% nerf to that. That's going to hurt there quite a bit. Flame's favorite heals you for 25% of the arcane damage, was 40. Enrage a sleeper. I wonder if that's warranted not to take it. Because I have like my code tank sent me a like a screenshot. Where's my cursor? It's disappeared. Like this was the build that they were currently playing, and it's just a full mitigation based spec. Hmm. Pulverize. Never really ran that before. This is going to reduce the cooldown of Incarnation by 1 second for each 25. Rage spent was 20. Okay, so just have longer uptime. And then Brewmaster. Healers have more time. Healers have more time to heal monks than any other tanks because stagger spreads out the damage and that they take over time. The goal is for monks to take a bit more damage overall than other tanks to offset this effect. However, we feel that the overall magic damage mitigation is a little low. But I feel like monks, Brewmaster monks specifically, have got other problems with the spec. Like, it's not like Mr. Pandaria Stagger. I feel like Stagger hasn't been like relevant as a major thing for Monk for a while. Like it's kind of like I'm trying to use another tank as an example. Um Kind of like Bone Armor as a DK, where it's just like you have it, it's passive, but very noticeable when it's weak. And are improving it to somewhat buffing Stagger and its value against magic. To increase the physical damage taken overall, we're primarily reducing the dodge granted by Elusive Brawler and some other tanks. Okay, Brewmaster balance increased Monk's armor by 50%, was 25. Good buff. Elusive Brawler chance to dodge reduced by 12%. Amount of damage staggered increased by 8%. That's good. Stagger's being a bit more relevant. Percent of magic damage staggered increased to 58%, was 45. That's good. Dance to the wind, chance to dodge. I mean, they're gonna probably really struggle trying to balance this. Specifically these two like dodge dances, because like dodging an attack is just like far superior than mitigating attack because you're just negating the entire hit completely. So them nerfing the dodges while only like buffing the armor might not be enough to offset it. Mulan's Grace. I have no idea what this talent is. I haven't played Monk since Mr. Pandario. Healing Winds restore 10% of max health, was 15. Just reducing healing. Stagger Strike's healing reduced by 28%. But Spirit of the Ox chance, summon healing spheres reduced by 40%. I don't think this has been very relevant for monks for a while. Like the healing spheres. Because healing spheres are pretty much like soul fragments for Demon Hunter. Last time I tried monk, like they would hardly ever proc. Elixir determination reduced by 30% of recently purified damage for a minimum of 8% of your max health. Reduce more healing. Celestial Brewery reduces healing reduced by 10%. Grants 10% drop. Like another talent of Brewery dodge being nerfed. So that's 3 talents of dodge being nerfed. On top of a healing reduction. But I don't think the 8% stagger increase or the 50% armor increase isn't really going to offset this. So I don't know how strong Monk actually was on beta. Like in the past, they've been pretty weak. And seeing this doesn't give me a lot of hope for Monk. Alright, props. Onto prop rally. Opponents are balanced defensive, both physical and magical damage. They can be in danger if they lose their defensive. Outstanding consecration. So they are aware of it. But they won't change it. That feels bad. Less of the power out of consecration. Of the armor bonus from Shield of Righteous drops, we are not reducing any of their passive physical defenses like armor or block. Like druids, paladins have high uptime on the defensive cooldown, so we're pulling back some of the duration to make timings is more important. And we like paladins slightly more off healing, so increasing the power of Water Glory. I mean, that's the thing about Prop Paladin. Prop Paladin has been a spec that's like really reliant on like being able to support, I guess, your group, your raid team with like sack, bop, wog, just being in that full support role, but as in the tank slot. So that is good that they're addressing that, because at the moment, the current rate with a nerfing all the healing, you're just going to be using it on yourself. The Shield of the Righteous increases your armor by 150 your strength, plus 170. And that's okay because you got block. The damage reduction effect of standing consecration of mastery divine block is reduced by 20%. What? Is there a what? Is there a world in which paladins will not want mastery now and just go pure versatility? There's no way, right? A 20% nerf. That sounds a bit too much. Sanctified Plates armor increases no longer apply to bonus armor from Shield of Righteous. Okay. Improved Holy Shield increases your chance to block by spells by 8% was 10. Depending on like mechanics, I mean, you're probably not gonna like really notice that all too much. The dust bust from all of Dusk and Dawn reduces your damage taken was 4%. A 1%, like they might as well could have just left it at 5. Like if you're nerfing it by 1%, it's like what's the point at that point? Hood of Glory healing increased by 10%. I mean, that's good. Just got more focused on the off healing. So specifically for raid, it's like if my co-tank was probably still playing druid, I could probably throw out a bit more wogs on my raid rather than just specifically for damage. And it should actually be a very noticeable difference. Sentinel duration reduced to 16 seconds was 20. IFT's duration reduced to 6 seconds was 9. 4 and 3 seconds. I mean, it could get very scary, specifically for keys, where you're not going to have a lot of uptime in your cooldowns as you once were. Which is the point of these changes. Righteous Protector. Holy Power abilities reduce cooldown by 1.5 was 2. I mean, it's going to be noticeable, but not that noticeable. Especially with different values of haste. Like, being the first season, it's probably going to be a lot more noticeable comparative to the last season of the expansion where you got absurd amount of haste. No. Protection Warrior. Warriors are the strongest tank against physical damage. They just copy paste that from Guardian. With high armor and iron for uptime, druids should be one of the best tanks at surviving physical damage. And then warriors just like warriors are the strongest tank against physical damage. So they can be vulnerable to magic or dotted effects in this round of changes by increasing the damage taken across the board by reducing the power of defensive stance. Warriors also have some strong heals that scale with their maximum health, like Indomitable and in Victory. So we're reducing the power of those abilities to compensate for the 60% increased stamina. What? Pain and gain now heals for 2%, was 3.5. If pending victory heals you for 20% of your maximum health, was 30. I mean, whatever. I mean, it probably isn't whatever. I mean, I don't really play Warrior to really know these, like, how these effects are really going to, like, implicate tanks. Nothing, like, compared to, like, Druid or Demon Hunter or DK that I know. Defensive stance reduces damage taken by 16%, 4% nerf. I mean, it could be okay. Fight for the flames causes defensive stance to reduce magic damage you take by 6% was 5%. Okay, so they're buffing that. It's only a couple of buffs. And I don't feel like there is a lot of magic damage in the first season of The War Within. I could be wrong about that, but seeing as how they're buffing these, and for Monk, I could be wrong about that. Into the Fray increases haste up to 8% was 10%. So they're probably going to really feel that. Points reduce damage you deal to you by 2%. Again, what's with this like 1% nerf? Like, if it's 1%, like why not change something by like defensive stance reduction by 15% and then like not even have this change? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Your during of veracity increases stamina and armor by 8% was 10%. So stam and armor. Wow, okay. Indomitable increases your maximum health by 6% was 10% and heals you for 1% of your maximum health per 20 rate was 10. Ugh. So the warriors are losing like 6% stamina. That's rough. Defender's Aegis reduced the shield wall cooldown by 60 seconds was 30. That's going to be very significant. Impenetrable wall causes shield slam to generate additional 4 rage was 3. Okay, so they're getting reduces the remaining cooldown of shield wall by 6 seconds was 5. Okay, so another buff. Like more rage and the cooldown of shield wall. I mean, I feel like by this, like, these nerfs that Warrior's getting, having like more shield wall is probably going to be very required. Disrupting shout cooldown increased to 90 seconds was 75. I mean, as far as I'm aware, that was pretty much off cooldown. A very small window, which is actually off, like not up. So that, I mean, that could actually be quite hurtful. I mean, I'm interested to see like how these changes actually are in live, especially the DK one, because of how the entire kit about the whole self-sustaining kit of DK is. It's probably gonna feel quite bad, but I mean, we'll see. But oh well, it's gonna be very interesting. Hopefully, this goes live when the servers come up, because apparently they were down pretty much all day today. I'll do some testing of that tomorrow. So those are my thoughts on these changes. I'm very interested to see how this play out. So until then, until next time, catch ya.